If you're planning to take a cruise on board either Iona or Arvia, then listen up. There are so many things that you're going to want to think about if you're cruising on this class of ship. Today in this video, I'm going to cover with you 25 of my top tips for your next cruise to hopefully help you make the most of your time on board. If you enjoy this video, then why not support my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. But anyway, let's get on board and let's get started with number 1. My first top tip to hopefully help you get the most out of your time on board either Iona or Arvia is to log into your My P&O Cruises account online at least 3 days before your cruise. On here, you can then make any purchases that you know you're going to need throughout your holiday. Think about things like Wi-Fi, speciality dining, drinks packages, so on and so forth. You'll usually find that all of these things are a little cheaper to buy online before you set sail. So if you know you're going to use it, then why wouldn't you buy online in advance and save yourself a few pounds? All you need to do is log into your account using your personal details plus your booking reference. So you should be able to log in here from the moment you've got your cruise booking confirmed. Number 2. Book things like port parking and pre-cruise hotels as early as possible. It is really important to remember that both Iona and Arvia are huge ships. They both carry well in excess of 5,000 people, and chances are you're not going to be the only ship in port on your embarkation day. That means that facilities like car parks and hotels will probably book up pretty quickly, especially if you're embarking the ship in a port like Southampton. If you're driving to the port, start researching where you want to park and just book it. In my experience, these facilities only fill up. They're not going to get any cheaper as you get closer to the start of your cruise. With things like hotels, it is possible to book these online with free cancellation deals. That means that you can remain flexible, so if a better option comes up, or if the price drops for the room that you've booked, you can just book elsewhere. But at least you know for now, you've got a bed to sleep in the night before your cruise. Number 3. Let's now move on to look at the ships themselves. My third top tip is to not worry too much about getting lost. Once you're on board, there is so much signage that will help you to find your way around. Outside each of the elevators, you'll find a huge directory of what's on what deck, and you'll also find these digital screens all the way through the ship. To find where you're going, just tap this digital screen and it'll help you find your way there from the current location that you're standing at. Clever, isn't it? You'll find most of the bars, restaurants and entertainment venues spread across decks 6, 7 and 8, with a thermal suite down on deck 5 along with the gym. Decks 9 to 15 are then exclusively passenger cabins, so you don't need to worry about them too much, and you'll find all of the pool facilities, the buffet and all of the outdoor activities from deck number 16 and upwards. Trust me, when you get on board, it will all start to make sense. Tip number 4. Keep an eye out for the coloured stairwells. On both Iona and Arvia, you'll find 3 main stairwells on board. One at the front of the ship, one in the middle, and one towards the back. The art on the walls is coloured differently depending on which area of the ship you're in. You'll find that the wall art is blue in the stairwell towards the front of the ship, it's silver or grey in the midship area, and it's red towards the back. I didn't see this advertised anywhere on board, but it is quite widely known, so maybe this is an insider's tip for you. Moving on to number 5, get to know your cabin as soon as you arrive. This is one of my top tips for any cruise ship, especially if you've not cruised on this ship class before, because there can be some little differences. When I was on board Arvia, I had no idea how to turn off the little nightlight in my cabin for the first 2 days of the cruise, which was so annoying when I'd try and go to sleep at night. It turns out this was just controlled with a pretty simple switch by the bed. I just didn't see that doing anything when I was trying the first 2 nights, so yes, my fault. I'd always recommend taking advantage of the fact that P&O Cruises give you a kettle with some basic tea and coffee making options in the room when you arrive. Rather than running straight up to the buffet, why don't you think about spending some time getting settled in your cabin and just figuring out how everything works? On the subject of tea and coffee, tip number 6 is to bring your favourite types of tea and coffee on board with you, or fetch any additional tea types from the onboard buffet restaurant. For example, I love a peppermint tea before I go to bed each night, especially on a cruise because I'm eating more than I usually would when I'm on land. P&O Cruises supply you with tea bags and instant coffee in the room itself, but then there are loads more options upstairs at the buffet. Why don't you think about just popping up there and taking what you need? That then means that at the end of the night, you don't have to go all the way to the buffet. You can just retreat back to your room and have your cup of tea on your balcony or just in your cabin before you call it a night. On this point, don't take loads with you from the buffet, and certainly don't fill your suitcase to take it all home with you. Just take what you need to have a couple of cups of tea in your cabin over the next day or two, and it's not going to run out if everybody plays ball. Number 7, bring a good quality reusable water bottle on board with you. I was really impressed by how many refill stations there were on board. It seemed so easy for me to constantly keep my water bottle topped up, whether I was in the atrium, by the pool, or in a number of other places on board. I always like to have water available throughout the day, but also in my cabin overnight, and I tend not to drink from the water in the cabin bathrooms. I recommend, if you're looking for a particularly good water bottle for your cruise, I would recommend the brand Chili's. They do keep my drinks cold for hours, and they keep hot drinks hot for a pretty long time too. You can buy these from a number of shops. I've listed them in my Amazon store to hopefully make it super easy for you. You'll find the link to my Amazon store down in the description of this video, and I've also pinned it in a comment down in the comment section, so you can head over there after. Tip number 8, try dining at 6th Street Diner if you're on board Arvia. At the point of recording this video, 6th Street Diner is a venue that's exclusive to Arvia, so you're not going to find that on Iona. This is the American diner on Arvia, and it's totally included in your cruise fare. Normal dress codes don't really apply in here, and formal night certainly doesn't apply, so it means that if you don't want to get dressed up for formal night, which we'll come back to in a few tips' time, then you've got somewhere to come and spend the evening, rather than feeling as though you have to just eat up at the buffet. Tip number 9, make any reservations for the Olive Grove early. The Olive Grove is the Mediterranean-inspired restaurant on board Iona and Arvia. On my short cruise, I completely ran out of time to try this one because we went to try it on the second to last day, and we were told that it had actually been completely full for the entire cruise. This might be different on longer cruises, but just in case, book in early. All of the reviews I heard from people when asking about the Olive Grove were really, really positive, so don't miss out. Book it as early as you can. Number 10, my 10th top tip is to go prepared to fully embrace formal night. This could be a controversial one for a lot of people who don't enjoy dressing up, but I was so surprised by how many people dressed up on formal night while I was on board Arvia. I expected the uptake to be much less than what I was used to on the smaller, more traditional feeling P&O Cruises cruise ships. Probably due to the fact that this is a big, modern mega ship, but I was completely wrong. Don't worry, you don't have to wear a tux or a ball gown if you don't want to. It's not that formal on here, but why not take a little bit of time to dress up and enjoy the festivities around the ship? You might even want to get your photo taken along in the main atrium by one of the professional photographers. Tip number 11. Speaking of the main atrium, my next top tip is to not miss the performances that take place in the atrium on both Iona and Arvia. Each night of your cruise, there'll be unannounced performances in the Grand Atrium. I found these to be so impressive, and they'd feature dancing and aerial performances with the performers hanging in the middle of the main atrium. It was so cool. This is something that I've never seen on a P&O Cruises ship before, and it really does bring a sense of occasion into this really big space. You won't see these performances advertised in the daily schedule, and they will be over fairly quickly because they don't last very long. My tip to avoid missing one is to make yourself at home with a drink at one of the venues around this Grand Atrium before or after your dinner, and hopefully you'll call it lucky. Number 12. Use your daily schedule to understand what's happening and when. If you've cruised before, this one might feel like a bit of an obvious one. However, if you've never been on a cruise ship, then you might be new to the concept of a daily schedule. The daily schedule will tell you everything that's happening around the ship, morning, afternoon, and night. It'll be delivered to your cabin each evening, which means that you can retire for the night and you can browse what's happening the following day before you go to sleep. My top tip on this one is to pack a highlighter or a pen so that you can circle on your daily schedule what you want to do tomorrow. Number 13. If you're anything like me, you'll enjoy a morning coffee while you walk around the open decks. If so, then this tip is for you to bring a reusable coffee cup. P&O cruises have completely phased out single-use plastics and single-use coffee cups on board their ships. So if you want a morning coffee to go, if you don't bring one, well, you're going to have to either buy one on board or walk around the open decks with a mug, which means that your coffee is going to get pretty cold pretty quickly. Instead, just pop a reusable coffee cup into your suitcase and you'll be able to hand this over at the counters when you place your order. You'll find complimentary coffee on board up at the buffet restaurant, and you'll also find that the main coffee bars serve Costa coffee. If you're from the UK, having a Costa coffee while cruising can often feel like a really nice and welcome taste of home. Number 14. On the subject of drinks, let's move away from coffee and let's talk about alcohol. Did you know that on your P&O Cruises holiday, you're permitted to take up to 1 litre of champagne or wine per person? It's really important to note that that person has to be 18 years of age or older, or if you're embarking the ship in the US, then that person has to be over the age of 21. That means that if you're 2 adults sharing a cabin, you have a pretty decent alcohol allowance that you can take on board with you. If you choose to then drink the alcohol in your room, then you won't have to pay any corkage fees, but if you'd like to take that to, for example, a restaurant or a bar, then you can speak to the relevant crew members to then be charged your corkage fee. It is important to note that the alcohol policy on P&O ships previously allowed you to bring spirits on board, but that rule has now changed. You're only allowed to bring champagne or wine now, so be careful not to get caught out. Number 15. Staying on the topic of drinks, think really carefully about whether or not you need to buy a drinks package when you take a P&O cruise. If you've booked a cruise on board Iona or Arvia, you might now be starting to think about whether or not you need to buy a full drinks package. My advice to you on this one is to just be careful, because I was really pleasantly surprised by most of the prices of the drinks during my time on board. I've been on some cruises where drinks prices are completely unreasonable, but I found them to be pretty comparable to what I'd pay at my local pub while cruising on board Arvia. So, do your maths to make sure you're actually going to benefit from buying one of these really expensive at times drinks packages. You can find out more about alcohol pricing on board P&O Cruises ships over on my website. Just go to FRASERATSEA.com, head over to the P&O Cruises section, and you should hopefully find all of the information you need over there. Tip number 16. If you enjoy relaxing in the spa, and let's be honest, who doesn't, then you might want to consider using this facility during a day in port. The thermal suite on board Arvia and Iona is absolutely stunning, and you'll find that the experience in there doesn't really differ too much between a day at sea and a day in port. In fact, the only way I find it'll really differ is by the number of people that you're sharing the space with. Most of the thermal suite facility is actually located on the inside of the ship, so you wouldn't be sitting there enjoying the ocean views anyway when the ship's at sea. You can often find some pretty good discounts available to use the spa facilities during a port day, so why not save yourself some money in the process? This is really useful if you've perhaps visited one of your ports of call before and you're maybe not overly bothered about getting off that day or for the full day, or if you've got a long port of call. Wouldn't it be lovely to relax in the thermal suite for a few hours while all of the other passengers are scrambling down the gangway after breakfast. You can thank me later, but go and lie on a heated lounger, pop in and out of that hydrotherapy pool, and relax. Tip number 17, check what evening entertainment you need to book on your cruise and make your reservations as early as you can. Due to the volume of passengers on these ships, the main theatre does often operate with a bookings approach, meaning that all passengers need to book a space in the theatre before the show, and everyone who doesn't have a booking will then be held outside until about 10 minutes before the show is due to begin, when they open the doors for everyone. It's worth mentioning that although the seats in the theatre are labelled with row and seat numbers, you don't actually book a specified seat. In the booking process, you just reserve a space. In other words, if you want a certain view, get there nice and early. Personally, I found the theatre on this ship to be, yes, an impressive size, but also completely full for every single show throughout the cruise. You do need to remember that you're sharing this ship with probably well over 5,000 other passengers if it's busy. So book your shows beforehand and then go nice and early to get a good view. You can take drinks into the theatre with you, so why not go, get a glass of wine, and take it in nice and early to enjoy the show. Tip number 18, if you enjoy casual, informal dining when you cruise, then be sure to head down and check out the quays. I found myself getting increasingly frustrated with how busy the buffet would be at key times on Arvia, but this issue is being eased a little by the introduction of a venue called the Quays. This is an informal eating option down on deck number 8 of the ship. Here, you'll find 3 different eateries offering menus that change daily. It's the perfect place to stop over to get a little bit of a pick-me-up once you come back on board after a busy day in port, before then thinking about getting ready for the night on the ship. You'll also find water stations here and coffee stations, so you can stay hydrated and awake too. Tip number 19, know where you can get certain drinks and also know where you can't. Onboard Iona and Arvia, there are some venues that won't serve you the full drinks menu. For example, you'll find a reduced menu available in the main dining room. Presumably, for efficiency purposes, there's a lot of people that need to be fed in there at any one dining time. My tip, find which bars stock your favourite drinks and then take them to the other venues with you. The example that I would give is that I really enjoyed the wine flights at the Glass House. I absolutely love them. I therefore opted to buy one to take with me for the evening entertainment at the Limelight Club. We had multiple people asking where we got them from, so we obviously sparked a little bit of interest in there as a result. So yes, don't compromise, just take your favourite drink from one venue to another. Tip number 20, book the Limelight Club for a night during your cruise. The Limelight Club is one of my absolute favourite P&O Cruises venues. Think supper club, mixed with some live music and performances, and you'll probably land on something very similar to what the Limelight Club aims to deliver. I've seen some fantastic acts in here, from Lavoie, the drag entertainer, to relatively famous faces from bands back in the day when I was growing up. You'll usually find there's a full dinner service here, followed by a show, and usually some Q&A with whoever the performer is too. So it's a really great place to just relax and unwind. This one does come at an added cost, but I've always found it to be really good value on all of my cruises. Tip 21. If you enjoy exercising outside while cruising and want to get some laps of the decks in, then make use of the promenade deck, down on deck number 8. I love to get out and get some fresh air every morning when I cruise, usually after breakfast. The top deck on these ships can be really busy, and so it's not the best place to go if you want to be doing some laps. Another issue with the top deck is that there are staircases as you move from one end of the ship to the other on the open decks, whereas it's entirely flat down on deck number 8. Speaking of deck 8, the next top tip is to be careful when you book a balcony cabin down here. This is the first time I'd ever seen a balcony cabin facing onto a promenade deck. The more I've cruised, the more I've realised that cabin space is at an absolute premium, so cruise lines will do what they can to squeeze in more cabins here and there around the ship. Deck 8 is home to a number of balcony cabins that do look out onto the ocean, but they have the promenade deck directly in between. That means that if you're relaxing on your balcony, you will have people walking around the promenade deck and they'll be able to look at you and they'll also be able to look into your room. There are also a number of hot tubs down along the promenade that could be directly outside your cabin. So just be careful, bear that in mind so that you're not surprised. Tip number 23. Don't be too worried about motion sickness on ships of this size, but it is always best to be prepared. I find that there's some really key medication that helps. For example, Stugaron tablets. You can get these from any pharmacy anywhere in the UK, and even over the counter at supermarkets. There's also a range of herbal remedies, old wives' tales, and also wearable items that can really help. Again, you can find most of these things in supermarkets. You can also find them over on Amazon. I've actually linked various wearables, various medications over in my Amazon store. Again, to remind you, you'll find the link to that in the description of this video and also pinned in a comment down in the comment section. Tip number 24, we're almost there. Stick to your assigned embarkation slot at the port on day 1. So many people go earlier than they're supposed to, and it just causes huge snarl-ups. When you board a cruise ship, the cruise line will say to you, you are due to arrive at the port between 1 PM and 2 PM, or 2 PM and 3 PM, or 3 PM and 4 PM, whatever the time is when you log into your account. Now, a lot of people just totally don't concern themselves with that, and they just turn up whenever. That then means that you're met with what I had in Southampton, which was hideously long lines that just wouldn't have been there if people turned up at the right slot. It is worth mentioning that some terminals and some ports will force people that come early to wait outside. So don't get caught out, turn up at the ship when you're supposed to, and hopefully that'll make everything go a little bit easier. Tip number 25, and this one is so important to me. Don't let all of the mixed reviews that you read about these mega ships affect your holiday too much. Before I cruised on Arvia, I read so many mixed reviews online, both on blogs, sites like Cruise Critic, and also videos on YouTube. And I was starting to get really quite worried about some of what I was reading online. The biggest piece of advice I would give is, yes, do some research before you get on board, which is exactly what you're doing right now. But remember to experience it for yourself. Don't take my advice, for example, as the be-all and end-all. Take what you're hearing online and say, okay, that's fine, but I'm going to experience it myself. And that's it. That's my top 25 tips to hopefully help you get the most out of your time on board Iona or Arvia. Please remember, while these are my top tips, I'm only one person. Have you cruised on Iona or Arvia? If so, do you have any tips that you would add to my list? Please let us know in the comments because I'm sure that people watching this video would love to go down and have a read. If you enjoyed this video, then I've also uploaded a full review of my 4-night cruise on board Arvia to my YouTube channel. Over in this video, I'll show you everything from that cruise, including my cabin, the food, the overall onboard experience, the ports, and I'll also tell you exactly how much I paid to get on board. Hopefully you found this video useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you over on my Arvia video.